ನಾನು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ಎರಡು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ನಾಗ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ sometimes ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ difficult ಆಗೋದು. So thank you very much. ಭಾಳ ಧನ್ಯವಾದ CMDR and UBUSS Agricultural University ಇದು ಸೌಕರ್ಯ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು. Thank you very much. ಸರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. Thank you very much. So ನನಗೇನು ಹೇಳೋದು, effective pedagogy, all of us know, has to do with the way we teach, and I understand that all of you are involved with higher education, higher education. So it's also called pedagogy or andragogy, where we're looking at teaching learning methods in a higher education setting. Yes. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ನಡುವೆ ಕೇಳಬೇಕಿತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ you are most welcome. Let me begin with a story. And everybody is comfortable with English, right?
Yes.
Everybody is comfortable. Anybody is not, please let me know. ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟಾಗ್ತದೆ ನಡು ಕನ್ನಡ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, but somehow English will be the main medium of instruction. So there was a boy, and this is a true story, in university. ಅವನಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಅಡಗಿಸ್ತಿದ್ರು. ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಕಲಿ ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಿದ್ರು. ಅವನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸ್ಲೋ ಇದ್ದ, ತಿಳಿಯೋದ್ರಾಗ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಏನೋ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅದು ರೆಪ್ಯುಟೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿತ್ತು ಅವನಾಗ. ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತಿದ್ರು, ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಕಲಿ ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್. ಹೆಂಗೆ ಫಿಸಿಕಲಿ ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಹಂಗ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಕಲಿ ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್. ಅವನು ಹಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಅ ಟ್ವಿನ್ ಬ್ರದರ್, ಅವಳಿ ಜೋಡಿ ಇರ್ತಾರ. ಸೊ ಹಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಅ ಬ್ರದರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಬಾಯ್ ವಾಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾರ್ಡಿನರ್ಲಿ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆಂಟ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನೆಲ್ಲ ಫಟಾಫಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡೋನು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಒಂದೇನು ದಡ್ಡತನ, ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ನ ಕರಿಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಅದು ಪ್ರಾಮಿನೆಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಮೋರ್ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿಕ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಮಿನೆಂಟ್. But one day, when they were sitting in a classroom, one of his professors called him to answer a certain question. And without a moment of hesitation, he answered, saying that, "Madam, I cannot answer, I am academically challenged." And the entire class burst out laughing. Avane helidare, "I am academically challenged." When he said that, his professor, she just looked at him in his eyes and said, "Don't let other people's opinion become your reality." ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬರದು ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ನಿನ್ನ ಸತ್ಯ ಆಗೋದೇನು ಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. Isn't that a very powerful statement? Yes. Don't let other people's opinion about you become your reality. It really doesn't happen, correct? But why am I telling you this story? Simply because we ask this question, why bother? Is effective pedagogy yakbeku? Why should we really care so much? Do you just want a certificate that I attended a FDP? Or do you really want to make a difference? Do you really want to make a change in someone's life? Yes. Students actually look up to you as teachers. You all have been students, and you know what it is when one teacher can pull you up, correct? And that is not just dependent on your attitude, but also your training, your understanding of how a student learns. I'll repeat, unless we know how a student learns, heng kalitala. One student in the class, how does he or she learn, is so important for us to get trained as a teacher, right? Which is why I understand all of you are here, and we should have this purpose very, very clear. That is the reason why we began with this. So the agenda for today is, first we will begin with some key principles for effective pedagogy. I'll try to keep it as practical and as doable as possible. We'll also demonstrate a teaching learning plan. How many of you all are now lecturers or assistant professors in colleges and universities? Can you please raise hands? All of you all?
Yeah.
So, absolutely relevant. How many of you all have heard of Bloom's taxonomy? Some of you all have heard. So, we'll discuss the Bloom's taxonomy also. Then, I want to bring in a very important aspect because I understand that this is a very unique gathering, yes, which is interested in Indian knowledge systems. ಈಗ IKS and one term ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ ಭಾಳ popular, but all of us have been brought up in this culture, isn't it? ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಇದರಾಗೆ ಬೆಳೆದಿವಿ in one sense or the other, but ಅದನ್ನ separate ಆಗಿ ಇಡೋದೇನು ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ. We want to gel it with this session and see what principles, pedagogical principles we get from the Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Then we'll have a little quiz. All of you have mobiles? Yes, so I just need all of you to have one smartphone. That's all. Smartphone, everybody has now. Smartphone, correct? So we'll have a little quiz on the session and then we have a Q&A. Alright? So let's start with key principles of effective pedagogy. There's a marker and a cluster also. A teacher can hardly function without it, isn't it? Okay. So we have the very first principle, active learning strategies. What's the opposite of this? Can anybody grab? I'm saying active learning strategies. Can anybody give me an opposite?
Passive learning strategy, I think so.
Perfect. Perfect. Can you repeat for everybody? Passive learning strategies. Thank you. So now can we elaborate on the difference between active learning strategy and passive learning strategy? Does anybody want to try?
Active means everyone should be involved in the session or in the class. Whereas passive means one-way communication. There is no interaction at all.
Very good.
That should not affect in the classroom.
Very good. TV ನೋಡೋದಂಗ.
Yes, yes.
ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಟಿವಿ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು ಕೂತರ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಏನು ಕಲಿಬಲ್ರು ಅಂತ ಮುಂದುವರಿ ದೇ ಆರ್ ವೇಟಿಂಗ್ ರಿಮೋಟ್ ಯಾವಾಗ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅಂತ when will this class get over is what they are looking for, but we are looking at an active learning strategy where we are hoping that every student in the classroom is, like what rightly mentioned, actively involved, right? So let's okay, so I'm going to discuss about a very simple acronym, SMART teaching. ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದಿದ್ದೀವಿ ನಾವು? SMART teaching. Each of these alphabets in the SMART will have something to tell us. Okay? We'll begin with S. The very first alphabet here is S. It says student-centric. Now, student-centric has much to do with this active learning strategy. Student-centric, opposite ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ classroom naga? Teachers. Correct? Student learning opposite is teacher-centric. ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ? ಎಲ್ಲ revolves around the teacher. ಬಂದಾರೋ ಬಿಟ್ಟಾರೋ ಹುಡುಗರು ಕೂತಾರೋ ಬಿಟ್ಟಾರೋ who cares? ನಾ ಬಂದು ನನ್ನ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು finished. Correct? That is teacher-centric, but we want to see what is student-centric. Can anybody, now when you are thinking of student-centric, we'll come to a lot more details, but suppose, let me ask you, what do you teach in class?
Cost accounting.
Sorry?
Cost accounting.
Cost accounting. Okay, very good. So this is commerce.
Yes.
Yes. So now if you have to develop, say for instance now you have to teach them basic balance sheet entry. Okay. It has to be student centric. And it has to be, so you please explain to me both the scenarios. Student centric, teacher centric. You think about it.
Student centric is nothing but we have to give the opportunity to them.
Okay.
To develop themselves.
Okay.
And have to give more opportunity for them.
Opportunity how? That's my question.
By giving the seminars.
Okay.
Several involvement by giving the assignments.
Okay, very good. You are coming to the point. Please sit down. Please sit down. Thank you. So we are looking at, for the benefit of people who just come, we're talking about effective pedagogy, and in that we are seeing what are active learning strategies, and within that I am going to discuss these SMART principles. SMART is an acronym where I am going to discuss each one of the alphabets standing for an important principle. So Modledo is S, student centric, where we are saying that we have to take into consideration the student as a learner in the classroom, the focus being on the student and not on the teacher. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ನಾನು ದೊಡ್ಡಸ್ತನ ತೋರಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿದ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಏನೇನು ಕಲೀಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಉಪಯೋಗ ಇಲ್ಲ, ರೈಟ್? ಐ ಮೈಟ್ ಶೋ ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ಶಿಪ್, ನನ್ನ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಕೌಂಟಿಂಗ್ ನನಗೆ maybe a CA, this, that, ಯಾಕೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ highly qualified people, there is absolutely no assurance that they are good teachers. ಅಲ್ಲ ಯಾಕೆ? Because they are not able to pass. They are teacher centric. They are not student centric, right? And activities that fall under here, like he gave one ಕೊಟ್ಟರು, ನಾನು ಏನೋ ಅಸೈನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, ಸೊ ದೇ ಗೆಟ್ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್. ಹಿಂಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದಷ್ಟು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್ ಇರ್ತಾವೆ, which sometimes ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದಲ್ಲ, ಅದ್ರಾಗ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು, ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ದಟ್. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಷನ್. ನಿಮಗೆ ಬರೀ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಟೀಚರ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. How do you want to complete your syllabus? If the focus is on that, then it is student centric. Correct? So I'll give you two examples and we'll do it also. One of the examples could be a case study. How many of you all can actually, do this? We do this in class where we divide students into groups. Yes, we divide students into groups. Whatever you teach, ಏನೋ ಕಲಿಸ್ತಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಆದರೆ ಅವರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಆ ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಈಚ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ಗೆ, ಈಚ್ ಗ್ರೂಪಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಎಸ್, now this is very common. This is becoming more and more common now. But it should not lose its essence. ಅದು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಮರಿಬಾರ್ದು, ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಮುಗಿತು, that's not the purpose. Student centric actually means that every student is involved in that particular topic, thoroughly has understood the topic, is able to come up here and present without the help of any presentation as such. Very presentation ಓದೋದಲ್ಲ, should be able to explain that. That is student centric, complete involvement of a student, right? Now this one, and we'll do all of this through demonstration. So it's not that I'm going to just brush and finish. What do you think? Who has heard of the term mindful? Okay. You have heard of mindful? Anybody else has heard of what is mindful? Don't hesitate. There is nothing. I think this is a nice gathering of. Yeah, you have heard of mindful. You want to share?
So mindful meditation is there are concept like we are completely what we eat also, we are consciously we are what we are eating. How is it? So consciously what we are eating, we are.
Excellent, very good. ಈಗ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಕೂತ್ವೆ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಎಷ್ಟು ಚಂದಾಗಿ ದೇವಿಗೆ, ಸರಸ್ವತಿ ದೇವಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಆಫರ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್, ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚಿದ್ವಿ. ಎದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ? ರಿಚುವಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. That point where we understand that whatever we are doing with a purpose. We are doing mindfully. Means our mind is here. In total involvement. Total involvement. And very involvement andre henga? Involvement with an understanding that absolutely very good. Consciously I am involved in whatever I am doing. Don't you think? When every activity is done like this, it's extremely calming and peaceful to the mind. ಅವ್ರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಚಂದ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಊಟ ಮಾಡೋ ಸತೆ ನಾವು ಕಾನ್ಷಿಯಸ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಊಟ ಅಮೃತ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಐ ಮೀನು ಹುಡ್ಕೋದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದೇ ಊಟ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ವಿಷ. It becomes toxic. And this has been studied. There is research on this as to what happens when you eat the way you eat. Correct? So when everything that you do consciously, including food, can actually have physiological effects on your body. What to speak of an important activity like teaching? Adin ಎಷ್ಟು mindful ಆಗಿರಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ classroom. Yes, I have to be mindful of what I am doing, what I am teaching. But then it doesn't confine to just that. ಸರಿ ನಾನು ಗೊತ್ತದ ನಾ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕತ್ತೀನಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಚಲೋ ನನಗೆ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕತ್ತೀನಿ. But am I mindful of my surroundings? For example, am I mindful in a classroom that there is perhaps a student who cannot see properly, visually, partially visually impaired? ನಮ್ಮ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿನಾಗ ಹಿಂಗೊಬ್ಬ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಡ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಆಯ್ತು MA ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ದೆನ್ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಟೀಚರ್ಸಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ವಿ ಓರಿಯೆಂಟ್ ದೆಮ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಹೌ ಅವೇರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ಫುಲ್ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ವೆನ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎನಿ ಸಚ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ಆಬ್ವಿಯಸ್ ಕೇಸ್. ಹೌದಾ? ಇದಂತೂ ಬರೋ ಆಬ್ವಿಯಸ್ ಗೊತ್ತದ ನಮಗೆ. ಇವನಿಗೆ ವಿಜುವಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಅದ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಅವ್ನ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ಸ್ ಫಾಂಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಅವ್ನಿಗೆ ಬೆಳಕನ್ನ ಕೂಡಿಸಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ನು ಪಾರ್ಷಿಯಲಿ ವಿಜುವಲ್ ಇಂಪೇರ್ಡ್, ಫುಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಅವ್ನಿಗೆ ಏನು ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ, he needs lot of light, he needs font size to be big to see things, and we don't give him anything an assignment on the computer ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನು ಬುದ್ಧಿ ಕಲ್ಪನೆ. So we are mindful, but this is again just one example. Can you now give me more examples of how mindful we should be in a classroom? Please give me examples. ನೀವೇ ವಿಚಾರ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ನೀವೇ ಹೇಳಿಕಾಗ್ತದೆ ಏನಿರ್ಬೋದು. The more interactive you are, the more learning will happen. Otherwise, it is a 1.5 hours TV watching.
There are slow learners, there are quick learners.
Thank you, sir.
So, as a teacher, I should identify them.
Absolutely. Yes, I should identify the slow learners and the learners who are much faster. But after identifying, what should I do? Yeah, identify. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಅರೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಏನೇನು ಸ್ಲೋ ಆಗಿ ಕಲಿತೀಪ, ನೀನು ಆದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಬಾ ನಾನು ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಇಸ್ ದಟ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ಫುಲ್? ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ಫುಲ್. All of us know this is not mindful.
The teacher has to set the pace accordingly.
Yes, set the pace accordingly, and also never say such things in class. Yeah? You all know this, but we all forget it because we are not mindful. Correct? And we'll see what Bhagavad Gita has to say about not being mindful. But being mindful is a very, very crucial understanding of inclusive education. And inclusive education internationally has become extremely popular. ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕತ್ತಾರ, ಅದ್ರಾಗ ಎಷ್ಟು ವೇಸ್ ಅವ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಸಿವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಡೆಮಾನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅವ. ಹೌ ಆರ್ ವಿ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮಲ್ಟಿಕಲ್ಚರಲಿಸಮ್? People coming from multiple cultures, multiple backgrounds, men, women, ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮರ್ತು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತೇವೆ. Or like what's slow learner, fast learner ಅದು ಒಂದು poor and rich. Not everybody is coming from a very well exposed ಇಲ್ಲ language ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಷ್ಟು ನಾವು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಇದು ನಾವು ನೋಟಿಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಸ್ನಾಗ. ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಈಗ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಸ್ನಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಯಾರ, ಈಗ ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟೇಜ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಅ ಸರ್ಟನ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೂಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ. ಹೌದಲ್ಲ? ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ. ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಸ್ನಾಗ ಯು ಆರ್ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಟು ಅಲೌ 10% 15% ಹಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ಅದ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹೂ ಆರ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಲೋ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ಸ್, ಡಿಪ್ರೈವ್ಡ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ಸ್. ಈಗ ಅದು ಹೆಂಗಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟದ, ಯಾಕೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಅದನ್ನ ಯಾಕೆ ಅಲೌ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು? ಸೊ ದಟ್ ದೇ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಗೆಟ್ an exposure in the same classroom ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾರ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಸ್ನಾಗ? ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ರೋನ ಕೂಡಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ ಆ 5 ಜನ. Is that a great practice? What have those children done? What will they, how is that anyway benefiting them? Not at all. So we have to be extremely mindful, extremely inclusive of this capability, exposure, disparity, differences among students. Does anybody have any comment or a question at this point? Nothing?
Ability ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯಕರವಾಗಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಡೆಯಿಲ್ಲ
ಅಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ನೀವು ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
ಅದೇ
ಹೌದು.
ಎ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಬಿ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲಿಕಾ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯವನ್ನು ನೀವು ಯಾವ್ದನ್ನ ಮೆಜರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಿ ಆ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯವನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನೀವು ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಡೆಯಿಲ್ಲ.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಏನಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟದೆ ಸರ್, ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಕ್ ಅಚೀವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಫೋಕಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟದಂದ್ರೆ ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಅದಷ್ಟೇ ಇತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಬ್ರೈಟ್ ಅಂತ. ನಮ್ಮ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಹೌದಲ್ಲ? ಸಮ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಎಟ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಸ್.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ನಾ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಕ್ ಅಚೀವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನಿಜವಾದ ಅಚೀವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಉಳಿದಿದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್,
ಉಳಿದಿದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್. ಬಟ್ ಈಗ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಸ್ಪೀಕಿಂಗು ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ಇದ್ರಾಗನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇನ್ ಅವರ್ ಓನ್ ಕಲ್ಚರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟೆಡ್. ಹೌದಾ? ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಓನ್ ಎಬಿಲಿಟಿ, ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಓನ್ ಆಪ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಡ್ ಅಂತ ತಿಳುವಳಿಕೆ ಅದ. Western societies naga it has become very popular in the form of multiple intelligence anta. There is a concept called multiple intelligence where they speak of 8 types of intelligence.
ಈ ಎಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯಕರವಾಗಿ ಇವುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದಾನೆ ಜಾತಿಯ ಮೂಲಕ ಅಲ್ಲ.
Correct, but it is such a contested area, so we will not get into it. It's a highly contested area. ಹೌದಲ್ಲ? ನಮ್ಮ ಸೊಸೈಟಿನಾಗ ಅದು ಬಹಳ misuse ಆದದಾಗಿ, so we don't get into that area. But what we understand is that every person has his or her own ability, and accordingly we have to gear them. ಏನೇ ಒಂದು ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಕಲಿಸ್ಬೇಕಿತ್ತಂತಂದ್ರು ಈ 8 ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಕಲಿಸಬಹುದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ. It is very interesting. One, though, the first kind of intelligence, which is the most popular intelligence, is verbal. Written, writing, verbal. Adrag chalo iddandre gedda. But there are so many others who are very good at kinesthetic. Andre ಏನು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ತಿಳಿತದೆ. You do something, they understand. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ತಿಳಿತದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಂತ ಈಗ ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್, ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಬಹಳ ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲರ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. To help students understand different way of learning when they do it on the job, right? ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಏರಿಯಾಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ನಾನು ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು we give them so many experiential learning ಇದು ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ where they have to go and do it, right? ಹಂಗ ನೀವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹಂಗ 8 varieties of intelligence ಇದೆ. So what we are trying to say is ಇದಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಮೈಂಡ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು. Never categorize students. ನೀ ಹಡ್ಡ, ನೀ ಅಷ್ಟೇನು ತಿಳಿಯಂಗಿಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ, ಅಥವಾ ನಿನಗೆ ಏನೋ ಯು ಕಮ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ನಿನಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟೇ ಸಾಕು. ನೋ, ಡೋಂಟ್ ಯೋರ್ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ ಹಿಸ್ ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ. ಡೋಂಟ್ ಲೆಟ್ ಯೋರ್ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ somebody's reality. ಬೇಡ. The more you open up for them, the more the child will open up and progress. Tomorrow come back and thank you. ಗೊತ್ತಾ ಇದು?
ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರಾದರೂ ಜಡ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಬಿಡಬೇಕು.
ಅದು ಬಹಳ ಕಷ್ಟ, ಹೇಳೋದು ಬರೀ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು, ಬಟ್ ಅದನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಮೈಂಡ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ರಿಯಲಿ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ಅ ಕಾನ್ಶಿಯಸ್ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್. ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು ಹಂಗ. ಹೌ ಮೆನಿ ಆಫ್ ಯು ಆಲ್ ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್ ಯೋರ್ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್? ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನೆನಪಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಏನೇನು ಹೇಳ್ಯಾರೆಲ್ಲ ನೆನಪದ. ಆಗಿನ ಟೈಮ್ನ ಮರೆತು ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಬಟ್ 10-15 years later we remember this and we go back, either thank them or curse them. ಬೈಕೋತೀವಿ, ಚಲೋತ್ತ ಬೈತೀವಿ, ಹೌದಲ್ಲ? ಈ ಒಂದು ಟೀಚರ್ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ ನನಗೆ ಲೈಫ್ ಇಡೀ ಮ್ಯಾಥ್ಸ್ ಕಲೀಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಬೈತಿರೋ ಇಲ್ಲ. We do that, correct? Because we relate that particular professor or teacher with their mannerisms. ಅವ್ರು ಏನು ಕಲಿಸಿದ್ರು ಅಂತ ನೆನ್ಪಿಡಿಯಂಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಅವ್ರು ಹೆಂಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಬಿಹೇವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅದು ಚಲೋ ನೆನ್ಪಿಡಿದ್ರು, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? Therefore, being mindful is extremely important about how you are in the classroom. Next, in SMART is adaptive. Adaptive ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ಸರ್. ಒನ್ ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸೋದು. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಏನ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಹಿಂದೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಬಂದೆ. ದೇ ಆರ್ ಸೋ ರೆಸಿಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಟು ಎನಿ ಚೇಂಜ್. ಎನಿ ಪಿ ಬಂತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಅಂತಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಟು ಸಿ ವಾಟ್ ವಂಡರ್ಫುಲ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಕೇಮ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಎನಿ ಪಿ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಸ್ತ್ ಮಸ್ತ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಬಂದು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, which is very helpful for the students. That is something sorry on a big scale, but on a day-to-day scale in the classroom, how can effective pedagogy, how adaptive idra, why is it effective? Suppose you come to a classroom with the idea of showing them something. ಹೌದಾ, ನಾವು visual aids ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ, ಅವತ್ತೇನು ಕೆಲಸನೇ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ. Do you have a plan B? What is your plan? Adaptive means that you are changing. Suppose you one assessment ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರಿ ಇವತ್ತು, ಹೆಂಗೋ ಮಾಡಿ ಹುಡುಗರಿಗೆ ಅಸೆಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ದು ಅಸೆಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ತಾವ, ಪೇಪರ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ ಬರೀತಾರ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲೆಸ್ಟ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಸೆಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಮೆನಿ ವೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಸೆಸಿಂಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಸೆಷನ್ ಬೈ ಇಟ್ಸೆಲ್ಫ್. Now the National Curriculum Framework has come up with competency-based assessment and so what are the different ways of assessing students? But that's a different session. Adra assessment ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಜೊತೆ ಬಂದಾಗ, suppose you see that some students are unable to write as much, they participate in the class much better. ಅದರ ಪೇಪರ್ನಾಗ ಏನು ಬರೆಯಂಗೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. Have you seen such students? But they're talking so much in class. ಎಲ್ಲ ತಿಳಿತದ, ಗೋಣ ಹಾಕಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ತಿರ್ತಾರ. ಬಟ್ ಬರಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಬಂದಿರಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ವಾಟ್ ಡು ವಿ ಡು? 0 ಬಟ್ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಬಿಡೋಣ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ, ಫೇಲಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಲೇಬಲ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡೋಣ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ. ಏನು ಉಪಯೋಗದ? ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪಿಂಗ್? ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪಿಂಗ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪಿಂಗ್ ಯು ಆಸ್ ಅ ಟೀಚರ್. ಹೌ ಡು ವಿ ಅಡ್ಯಾಪ್ಟ್ ಟು ದಟ್? ಏನು ಮಾಡೋಣ? ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ ಬೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಸೆಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್? ಯಾವಾಗ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೇನು, ಓಕೆ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಐ ಕೀಪ್ ಅ ವೈವಾ based on this topic? If this answer sheet na bariliಲ್ಲ, ಸರಿ, can I keep a viva? ಅದ್ರ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಅನಿಸ್ತದೆ? 100 ಮಂದಿ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಂದಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ? ಒಂದು 50 ಜನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಮಹತ್ವ. ಸರಿ, 20 ಜನ, 30 ಜನ, 100 ಜನ, how much can I be creative and give time for all this? What is the solution? ಏನು ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ? Is there a solution first of all? ನಿಮಗೆ ಏನು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತದೆ? You see a solution? ಹೌದು ಅನ್ಬೋದು, ಇಲ್ಲನೂ ಅನ್ಬೋದು. ಏನು ರೈಟ್ ರಾಂಗ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ. Yes or no? It could be both. But what? Please tell me. What do you think? Sorry sir. Counseling. Okay, counseling. What are we saying? We are saying that if some students do not perform well in their written, yes, what will you do for such students? In a class of 100, is it possible to do something else? If yes, if no, then there is no discussion. This is of no use. You wish 30 ಮಂದಿ anyway fail agare sir. Unbettable. But would you have any plan B? And thinking about it is the purpose of this session. Adaptive heng aagtide. How will we become adaptive and say that no, in a class of 100 also I can have a variety? So most universities now, and this is again suggested by NEP, ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಹೆಂಗಿರಬೇಕು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಈಗ ನಾವು ಬರೀ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಅಸೆಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಂತೀವಿ for this one adaptive, but it can be true for even a lesson plan. ಹೌದಲ್ಲ, lesson plan ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೆಂಗೆ ನಾನು ಕಲಿಸ್ತೀನಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ನಾಗ. For that also we need to be adaptive. But now we're talking about assessments and we are saying we're putting ourselves in one situation where we say that a written exam, not many of them are writing well even though they participate in the class. And in a huge class, how do I have a plan B? To say that, okay, if your written thing is not working, what should I do? So most universities now, they follow a very interesting way of assessments called internal and end semester. Ille semester system irlikilla, alla annual system anta irtade. Semester system. Okay, very good if it is semester system. So one semester end ಒಂದು exam ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಡು you have assessments, internal assessments. And how are those internal assessments also written? So we are just so set. Yes. We are set. We are a question paper ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, annual question paper, year assignment last year with year ಮುಚ್ಚಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ, ಅದು ಚಲೋ ವೈಬ್ assignment. And we keep using that.
Ma'am, now there are provisions for industrial visits, projects, as well as by increasing student talk time, for example, seminars, project presentations, etc. That is also included.
Yes.
That can also be part of the CCE, that is
Yes.
the continuous assessment.
Yes.
Or continuous evaluation.
Absolutely. And that was my point. That was the point.
That is there.
The provision is there. The point is that how much we actually make use of those provisions. Right? How well are we able to use those provisions? Are we actually going ahead and saying that, look here, in my classroom, I have a lot of students who don't really, they're very active in the classroom in terms of discussions, but they're not so active in terms of writing. So should I have a group discussion as one of the assessments? Yes, why not? But how, and what do? I create a rubric. Very clear rubric. Rubric andre ಏನು? I give them clear parameters. What are we going to assess you on? Very clearly, beforehand. So they come prepared. Correct? And then they sit in groups and they discuss one after the other group. I implement this very much in classroom. And it works so well. Madle avರಿಗೆ topic ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀವಿ. And then they come back, prepare. Every group has a different topic. Every group has the opportunity to ask the other group a question. We give them marks based on that. Like I said, assessments is a completely different topic for training. But why am I using this? I'm only using this to understand that we need to be adaptive. If you want to go ahead with smart principles of effective pedagogy, then one of very crucial is adaptive. Change. Keep changing the way you teach, changing the way you assess, changing the way you give feedback. All of that. Okay? Any questions, any comments at this point? Okay. Next would be R stands for being relevant, reasonable, reflective. I have 3 things here, very important. But relevant, this is Gen Z that we are dealing with. Alright? This is Generation Z. The ones who are now in colleges and universities, they're called Gen Z. They're dealing with very different kinds of pressures. Students actually. It's not a question of Dharwad or Bangalore again in one sense, because ella kade social media, Facebook, Instagram, ella kade ada. So that creates a different world for them altogether. Are we relevant to them? For some of who are very young, who have just started their career as as professors or lecturers, it's much easier to relate to them and become relevant in their lives. Relevant ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನೇನು ಬರ್ಬೋದು relevant ಅವ್ರು relevant ಹೆಂಗೆ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು ಅವರಿಗೆ? How can we be relevant to the students? You understand the question very clearly? How can we be relevant to the students? Any ideas? Any suggestions on being relevant to them? Okay, I'll give you an example. When I had a course to be taught this time on health and education economics for master students and also for final year undergrad students. The course was at a different level of difficulty. Now, health and education economics is not mainstream economics, right? In the sense that it's not typically micro, intermediate, macro, mathematical, like side go. So it's not the same. Health and education. So what was my first class? to be relevant to them. I gave them all the career opportunities in health and education economics. The moment they saw that, oh, these are the career opportunities, these are the places where you can go after doing this course, they became so serious about it. If I were not relevant, ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡು ಉದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಸ್ತ್ ನನಗೆ ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಖುಷಿ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕತ್ತದೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿರ್ತೀನಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಏನು ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೋ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕ್ಯಾಟ್ಸ್ then it's never relevant to them. Going up to them, understanding what are they expecting from us is so important. Second thing would be also to be technologically relevant to them. Yes, we often, most of you here I think would be technologically very sound in the sense you know how to use different gadgets. Maybe I think in my generation it's over. We are the ones who little ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಕಳ್ಳಾಡಿಗೆ ಶುರು ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಆಗ್ತದೆ. We get a little worried what's going on with the gadgets, but not with you all, and should not be, because we want to be relevant to them. We want to be relevant to them and understand that they are super smart in technology. How smart am I? Do I come across as one technologically super challenged professor who doesn't understand anything about gadgets? Then they will say that okay, it's boring kind of. But unless and until you learn their language, become relevant to their lives in terms of their career, in terms of their interests, it becomes very difficult. We make students create Instagram pages on their subjects, where they portray, okay, they say that we learned this in very interesting something. We make them create their own LinkedIn profiles, where they become totally relevant. They feel that our professors, they understand what we need, right? So, any questions here? Any comments? Okay. Reasonable again is to say that don't be unreasonable with students of that age. You were a student at some point, right? So I have seen, sometimes we get extremely unreasonable in our demands. Adra agbadi. Bhayankara unreasonable antandre also not adaptive. So reasonable agirbeku in terms of our expectations from them, in terms of their age, in terms of their interests. Reasonable is very, very important to be relevant and reflective. Reflective again is connected with all of these, adaptive and being relevant. Reflective andre enu? So vichar madbeku. Ayyo ivattu class alli hogilla yaaka. Imagine for a minute, I was taking a class when there was this final match going on, cricket World Cup, and then class. ಈಗ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ತೆಗಿಲಿಕ್ಕಂತಿದ್ರು ಸೊಗಾಶಗೆ ಸ್ಕೋರ್ ನೋಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ no mobile, nothing. So instead what I said, hey, every 10 minutes score update madam. Thrilled, super thrilled. Every 10 minutes please update the score. So every 10 minutes everybody would open, then they score. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. It doesn't happen every other day, does it? Doesn't happen every World Cup दूसरा fortunately for us. But I'm saying that it's okay to understand, be adaptive, to reflect that what is it, why is it that certain times your classes work well, students learn well, but certain times they don't. What should I change? Na hengadana one ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ adjust ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. So that what we are focusing on student-centric learning. Right? So is this smart for now till R okay? Finally, this is important. When we say what's the target, as in what's the objective. Adinka UGC has given this term OBE, outcome-based education. Some of you must have already heard about it. Has anybody heard it? Yes, all of you have heard. Outcome-based education. So what is outcome-based education? Does somebody want to share? ಏನು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ನಾವು ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು? Whatever you understand, please feel free. Because that's what we'll do in a while. Anybody?
Occupational based education.
Occupation.
Occupational based education.
Occupational based education. Okay. Any other answers?
ನಾವು ಯಾವ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಅಂದರೆ ಪಾಠಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಉದ್ದೇಶನ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ಅಂತ
Correct. Anybody else? Any other?
There should be course outcomes as well as program outcomes. So at the end of a particular tenure, whether those course outcomes as well as program outcomes are met or not.
Right. Could you give me an example also? From what do you teach?
I'm a humanities person, language.
Language. Very nice. So you teach English?
That's right.
Okay. So what would be a course outcome for you? Say for instance you're teaching an undergrad BA, say first years or whatever. What would be one of the outcome of your class? And take any topic.
If it is a literature-based paper, then mostly something related to the society. For example, the society has nuances of a particular community or something like that, and be very sensitive about it. So that would be one outcome. And if it is a language-based paper,
Can you phrase one outcome? So what you said is the first one. Can you put it in writing and say, well, this is my outcome? How would you phrase it?
student will be able to explore, right?
ಆಸಕ್ತಿದಾಯಕ ವಿಷಯಗಳು.
ಹೇಳಿ.
ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಇರೋ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಗಳಾಗಿವೆ.
Interested in your subject.
To sensitize about the social problems. For instance.
Okay. By the end of this course, student will be able to be sensitive. Okay. Zaruru.
ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಏನನ್ನ ಕಲಿತಿರ್ತಾರ ಅದನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ ಪಡಿಸ್ತಾರ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ
ಬರೋದು. That's right.
So whole style of it. ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ ಪಡಿಸ್ತಾರ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ
Right.
Student will be able to understand,
Right.
appreciate,
Right.
apply,
Right.
develop skills.
Right. Right. So there are different these terms, and we'll see how to understand this very well. One thing is to say that what you said, that the course should sensitize people. Right. That's your objective. That may not necessarily be the outcome. That's the objective. But when I say an outcome, it should be measurable. Do you agree?
Yes.
Unless it's measurable, how can I call it an outcome? Correct? ಆಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು ಆಕ್ಯುಪೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ನು ಏನು ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ನೀವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಯಾವ ಕಾಂಟೆಕ್ಸ್ನ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅಂತ ಬಟ್ ದ ವೇ ಐ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅವ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಆ ಕೋರ್ಸಿಂದ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ನೀವೇನು ಕಲಿಸ್ತೀರಿ? ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಕಲಿಸ್ತೀರಿ.
ಫಾರ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಅವರು ಮುಂದೆ ಉದ್ಯೋಗ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು.
ಅದಲ್ಲ, ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್. ನೀವು ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದತ್ತೀರೋ ಅದನ್ನ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ನೀವು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ. ಬಟ್ ನಾವೇನಿಲ್ಲ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಆ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ವಿಷಯ ನೀವು ಕಲಿಸಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು ಏನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕತ್ತೀರಿ, ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಏನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೋದು, ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ಏನು ಮೆಜರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಸಪೋಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಅ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಇನ್ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಫಾರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ fortunately I understand something of economics. Let's say we are teaching a course in microeconomics. ಆಮೇಲೆ you are teaching them consumer behavior. ಈಗ ಇದರ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ಏನಿರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗ್ತದೆ, ವಾಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ದಿ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಯು ಟೀಚ್ ಸೇ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಇಂಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಕರ್ವ್ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್. ಏನಿರ್ಬೋದು? ಒಂದು ಇಂಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಕರ್ವ್ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್ ಅದ ಎದುರಾಗದ್ದು ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್ ಅದ್ರ ಒಳಗೆ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಬರೀತೀರ ಅವಾಗ, you have to be very clearly write it down. What is it that you are expecting your students to show? Correct? And it can be, say for instance, one outcome of that particular topic is, okay, one outcome of that, because we are really micro full kala bada hogliರುತ್ತೆ. For microeconomics, there can be a proper 4-5 course outcomes. ಅದ್ರಾಗ ನೀವೇನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, by the end of the course, the student will be able to distinguish between cardinal and ordinal theories of. That's a very clear. Distinguish you can measure that, whether he has understood the difference between cardinal and ordinal. Okay? But for a particular topic in bada oath hunger, you are trying to see whether I can look at the outcome, I can clearly understand whether the student has achieved this or not. That's a course outcome. Yes? So, this OBE, outcome based education, is based on Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is very important for us to write our course outcome, our assessment plan. And some of you already mentioned that there are different levels of learning. Different levels of learning irtavalla. It begins with what? Remembering. Most educational organizations, right from school to higher education, they focus on remembering. Remembering andre ಏನು ಸರಿ ಹೇಳಿವಿ you ಕೇಳಿವಿ. So suppose you go out from here, somebody says Bloom's taxonomy. I've heard of Bloom's taxonomy. That is only when you are recognizing and recalling the facts. That's at that level. Yes? But you go a little higher and you say that, no, you also understand. So then, understanding of Bloom's taxonomy in Arthada, yeah, I understood that it is talking about different levels. It is talking about different levels of learning. Idu nanagella artha agidantalla, but yen artha agida Bloom's taxonomy anta. Bloom's taxonomy talks about different levels. These two are different levels of learning. Beginning with remembering. Ish maybe nimaga tilu. But you go ahead and you say, I can apply the facts, rules, concepts and ideas. Adan apply madbodhe nanu. How well am I able to apply this? Who is teaching here? Let me see different subjects. We are getting such interesting areas. Somebody is teaching commerce, language, economics. What do you teach, sir? Commerce. What do you teach, ma'am?
Acupuncture.
Acupuncture. Oh, wow. Where do you teach?
Yoga and
Oh, very interesting. So, do you also have to follow all UGC guidelines? Not really.
This is my first time attending this academic.
Okay. What about you, sir?
Sanskrit.
Sanskrit. Very nice. So nice. Even economics.
Political science.
Political science. Okay. So can you give me one theory of political science?
Leadership theory.
Leadership theory. In leadership theory, matlab remembering, you hear what is leadership theory? Adadmele understanding, adar badage ಏನೋ ಇಲ್ಲ ಜಗ್ಗೆ ಇರಬಹುದು. Understanding. Apply ಮಾಡಿದ ಕೂಡ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ? How do you apply it?
Changing the personalities in the students, as well as representatives, elected body members, political allies, all those things.
Classroom nage ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ?
Sometimes we are giving some chances to students who are making presentation, group discussions, and seminar presentations.
ಈ presentation, group discussion, seminar presentations nage ಇನ್ನೂ apply ಮಾಡ್ದಿಲ್ಲ.
No, we are evaluating their emerging as a good leader. How to speak.
Correct.
How to analyze.
Very
the policy making.
Okay. What is the application of it? And you had said it, I'm sure you do it also. Suppose you appoint somebody in the class. In class even parliament aitu andra.
Yes, definitely.
That is application, which I think many of you all would do it. Further,
everywhere
it happens. Isn't it? Where we make the classroom a mock parliament and we give them roles. That's when they are actually applying. So they know that I am so and so and I have to act so and so. Speaker idra hinge ಮಾಡಬೇಕು.
In practically, madam, in our department, every department have elected a class representative for this their last year percentage and those things. But in our department, we are conducting an election.
So good.
Then we all are going to making a vote and counting the permissions.
Very nice.
And
practically you are doing
yes,
it. Very nice.
then we are
Very good. That's a complete application. The students will know how the election process works. Right? Good. Then what about analyze? ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮೇಲೆ ಹೋದ ಕೂಡ you will start analyzing. What do you think is analysis? Where you begin to see things critically. Yes? You look critically ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಬರೇ ಬೈಯೋದಲ್ಲ. Critically is not the same as criticizing something. When you are critically thinking, it means that you are actually looking at something, or ಇದು ಹಿಂಗಾಗ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು, ಇದು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಯಾಕಾಯ್ತು. All of this will come under analysis. Howda? And we are all very good in analyzing some situations, like women are expert in analyzing household situations. Nam atte hinge yakandru. I'm just joking. Right? So we have different ways of our own analysis. Correct? So this has to apply in the classroom as well. Correct? Okay. Next we go to evaluate. So how do we evaluate? Say for instance political science. Now you know how Indian system works. But now students theoretically also know how the American system works, how the Russian system works, right, of voting. Now this is understood to a certain level. Yeah? Remember America Russia India. Next one stage comparative analysis. But evaluation now they are saying which one do you think is better. You are making your own judgments. Better on what basis? One chalodha, one kettadha anta. Ya basis will ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಿ. We all know social science will have certain rules, right? Social science ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಅನ್ನಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. Science ಅದ. Why does it have that science there? It has set rules saying that ಹಿಂಗ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ you will have to define the premise, basis on which you are making certain observations and conclusions. Correct? So then that is when you are evaluating a certain, say for example, a policy. Howda? Ondeno NEP bantu. NEP du ಎಷ್ಟು ಮೊದಲು ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ? We started remembering, understanding ಏನೇನದ NEP ನ provisions. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು universities started applying some things, analyzing. They started debating what is here, what is there, what is the advantage. But evaluating, they started looking at how this policy that was introduced of 4 years of undergrad education. Why is it helpful for students? Does anybody know why is it helpful for students? 4 years of undergraduate education. Most of the universities abroad have 4 years undergrad education. So when standardization, this is an extremely good step. After 4 years of undergrad education, students can go abroad for their post-graduation. ಇಲ್ಲಿ 3 ವರ್ಷ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 1 ವರ್ಷ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ ಆಫ್ ನಾಟ್ post-graduation, ಮತ್ತೆ undergraduation ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಏನೋ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಓದಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. So this is kind of a standardization why they did 4 years, and many other reasons are there. But this is when we are evaluating a certain policy. Yes? And finally, which is the most difficult thing to do, is creating. Creation ಯಾವಾಗ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ನಾಗ ಪೊಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ನಾಗ? ಸರ್ ನಾವೀಗ ನಮ್ಮದು ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ಸೇ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ನಾವು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಮಾಡೋದಿರ್ತೀವಿ. They develop their own way of doing something. That is creation. And that, ಈ levels ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ, these represent higher and higher orders of thinking. Higher and higher levels of intelligence ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಈ ಥಿಯರಿ. ಬ್ಲೂಮ್ ಅಂತಂದು, Benjamin Bloom is a psychologist who developed this. He is an education psychologist, Benjamin Bloom. And he gave this long ago, in 1950s. but it's still popular with lot of changes in the sense version 1, version 2 ಅಂತ ಬರ್ಬೋದವ. But this is a fantastic way of understanding that there are different levels of thinking, and the highest thinking that a student can do is when he actually comes up with his or her own something, some creation. Okay? Any comments? Any questions at this point? Please ask. And this, if you have seen, has begun right from schools. It's not there in university alone. But ಅದನ್ನು ಬಹಳ ರಿಚುವಲಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು, because Indians are very used to rituals. They love rituals. ಒಂದೇನಾರ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಕಣ್ಣು ಮುಚ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಭಾಸ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. Yes, but to be mindful, ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅದನ್ನ is very important. So right from the school age up to the university age, Bloom's taxonomy or higher order thinking is something very useful for our classroom. So this I have given. Can we just go through each one of these? Can I request you to read the first one, sir?
Remembering, retrieving, recognizing, and recalling relevant knowledge from long-term memory.
Very good. Okay. Second is understanding, madam.
Constructing meaning from oral, written and graphic messages through interpreting, exemplifying, classifying, summarizing, interpreting and comparing and explaining.
Third one, apply. Does anybody want to read? You get it. Can you see? It's too small, Alla.
Applying, carrying out or using a procedure for executing or implementing.
Thank you. Analyzing. Does somebody want to read? It's not very. Can you want to read? Analyzing. If you can see from yeah.
Analyzing, breaking material into constituent parts, determining how the parts relate to one another, and to an overall structure or purpose through differentiating, organizing, and attributing.
This was difficult. This from here comes higher order thinking. Madle moves tank hogtitu. But 4, 5, 6, when they analyze the things, they break it into constituent parts, then evaluate it. It chalo adano illo, it yak chalo illa, it yak better, why this system works better. All that will fall under evaluating. And finally, creating is putting elements together to form a coherent or functional whole, reorganizing elements into a new pattern or structure through generating, planning or producing. Say for example, you are teaching them 5-year plans. Ellaru gottadalla 5-year plans, of course, in Vidya ayavada. But then you say that okay, now you create one plan for the country. That is so high. To do something like that, they will have to know everything right from remembering. Oh, idandre henga. If they know, only then they can go up to creating. Right? So aim in your class, not everything will go up to creating. But at least there have to be, suppose now one the subject and you have 5 objectives for that course. At least 2 objectives should go up to the level of applying. All 5 will go to remembering and understanding. 1 at least should go up to analyzing or evaluating or creating. Try. And you will see yourselves that there is a lot of difference that comes into your own classroom. Okay? Any questions so far? I have a video to show now. Can you show that? ನಾನು ಇದು ಹಾಕ್ಬೋದು. ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಕವಿಟ ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನೋಡ್ರಿ. Agricultural economics class where I taught them farmers' distress or agrarian distress. There is a topic in economics where we have to teach them agrarian distress, and I started it with this. To become what? To become relevant. To become totally relevant to them, to help them connect with the farmers. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಹೆಂಗಿತ್ತು ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಗೆ ಓಡ್ತಾರೆ. Nobody wants to become a farmer, correct? Nobody can link so much to agriculture. But when they saw this video, they had so many emotional connect with the subject, correct? Now what I want to do is we began with saying student-centered learning. Adraga navenandre there are different activities, and I told you I will come back to that. Adraga we have a way of teaching which is called as case study method, which I think I briefly mentioned. ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ನಾವು ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಸಿಗೆ. ಅದೆಂತ ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀವಿ? ಸೇಮ್ ಥಿಂಗ್, ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಟೇಕ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್, agrarian distress, farmer suicide. I gave the students 3 cases. One, this case was, so one group of students was representing Punjab, and we feel that Punjab is no problem. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗಿಂತ ಜಗ್ಗೆ ಇದು ಬರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕತ್ತದಲ್ಲ. No, there are a lot of farmer suicides in Punjab. Then another I gave in the area of Kaveri region, where in Tamil Nadu area also there have been lot of farmer suicides, and of course the most prominent area is Vidya, where there have been whole lot of suicides. But yaak agave in mooru jagadaga, every group they represented very interestingly the reasons why farmers committed suicide in that place. So in one case where there is more of water dispute, the political angle is coming. We all know Kaveri. Yes, water shortage is more because of water disputes. But in the other it is definitely natural causes. In other it is because of mismanagement of policy, especially in Punjab area. So we had students come up and do these things. Now what I want you to do is, I can see that you probably with same area, same domain, same subject hangitandra. I want you all to pair up in twos. If you can you pair up in twos? Pair madadada. Yes, so for example, with madam, can somebody be there? Somebody else can be with, or you can just, yeah, come on, quickly. To pair up for an activity. Okay, so what you have to do, it is now around 10:35. You will have about 5 to 7 minutes where you will pair up, share one topic that you have, any area, it could be, any subject that you are teaching. Okay, you have to say that I am teaching this topic, I am going to choose. How am I going to make it student centric? Where are my Bloom's taxonomy coming? So for example, you choose a topic, please write at least 3 outcomes. Moore saabu, hard bada, moore. Okay, and adhu henge kalistini. How are you going to teach that? Is it student centric? Is it is it really an innovative way of getting the students involved in the classroom? Idu nimaga 5 to 7 minutes ada, you will discuss among yourselves. You can choose any subject you want, and then we will have you speak. Can we start? Sir, you don't want to join in this? Okay. Please. I don't know whether you are not.